Yeah, the original idea for this video was to gather all the sectors that are really worth of visiting around Arco and record like a one long video presenting somewhere between 10 and 20 different crags. But recently I realized it makes no sense. By the time I will get to Arco one more time, probably it will be late autumn, and some friends were asking for a short video introducing some cherry-picked crags from Arco area, and I thought it's a good idea maybe to release it now. So the main concept is to present sectors that are really close to Arco, that you can go either by foot or maybe using a bike. You don't have to drive like, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes to just get there. And I'm going to present like 4 sectors, one of which you already know from the previous videos. It's called Massone. One important hint I would give you at the beginning is that you don't have to buy a guidebook before you get to Arco. Majority of sectors has a nice like a board with a photography of the sector with all the lines drawn on it with the grades. Also, you can just get to the sector, use that kind of guidebook on your first day, and then you can go to any bookstore in the Arco, which there is several of, and you can find which guidebook you like the most, because I guess there is not even like 3 or 4 but even more different version of the guidebook. Each of it is different. One has a better photos, different has a better logistics data, so depending what you want, which types of routes and sectors you want to cover. So Massone is one of the oldest and definitely the most popular sector in Arco. It consists of 3 subsectors. Some of them are separated then into smaller sectors as well. The exposure is southeast, which makes it really good place to climb basically almost all year. In the summer, obviously, you need to wait until late afternoon hours, but with the sun setting after like a 9 p.m. in the summertime, it's still possible to climb a few hours every day. In the winter, you can climb in the sun, and in the autumn and spring, the walls are in the shade after, let's say, 1 or 2 or 3 p.m. depending on the time of the year. Yeah, the sector is pretty polished, so you need to take that into account. If you don't like worn out rock, you just maybe find some other spot. When it comes to grade range, it's an ideal place for climbers between like a 7A to, I would say, 8B territory. Most of the climbs are in the 7B, 7C range. When it comes to 7Cs, there is the most of them. When it comes to the grade, there is at least 20 routes of that difficulty in the sector. The style of climbing is between like a vertical walls on the crimps to a huge roofs and overhangs on the right side of the entire sector. Yeah, but starting from the beginning, the first part of Massone is our sectors A, B, C, D, E. It's mostly slightly overhanging vertical, maybe vertical climbing in a very orange limestone with a bit of tufas, a lot of crimps, some tiny roofs. The routes are really polished, but also they are, in my opinion, really high quality and really interesting. Basically everything above 6B plus it's interesting of doing. The easier routes maybe not so interesting because they are in the grey rock, but yeah, it's usually typical for a limestone cracks in Italy or Spain for the difficulty to be a grey rock. The next subsector is called Abyssi. It's really amazing. The routes are really long here. In the middle of the sectors you have mostly slightly overhanging wall ending with a big roof. The left and the right side is more like a sustained overhang from the bottom to the top with some tufas and a lot of crimps. Routes are really endurance based. Usually they don't have like a very difficult craxes, and most of the routes is between 7B, 7C plus range of difficulty. And the last of subsectors is famous Il Pueblo, also called Underground, which is the home of this famous route. You have a really huge overhangs here. Most of the routes are above 7B. The shade is almost all day, so you can climb it here in the summer, you can climb it on the hot or warm days. You need to have quite a lot of power, a lot of finger strength, and yeah, also endurance is useful because those routes are not very short. And yeah, it's really famous crag. I really recommend that place. One important thing obviously is approach to the sector. You can get there on by foot within like 50 minutes from the city of Arco. Also by car it's just like 5 minutes. The only problem is parking. You need to be aware that there is not a lot of parking lots, and sometimes they are periodically closed during year for example road maintenance or some other reasons. So just watch on the signs to not to be fined for a parking.
O, i to są kurwa łestowe drogi do chuja, a nie. Tak sobie siódemki wyobrażałem. Idziesz i nie zastanawiasz.
Wiem, ja widziałem stary na ekranie, to dużo fajnych
No ja
zaginających.
po prostu sobie szedłem i w ogóle jakby bez stresu cały czas.
Przyjemnie.
Next sector is Terra Promesa, which is on the same road that Massone, but further away in the mountains. Maybe going by foot is not the best idea, but if you have a bike or a car, it's easier to get. I think if you're desperate, you can go there by foot, but it's adding another like 3 or 4 kilometers to the walk to Massone. There is over 40 routes there. The exposure is like southwest. You can climb there basically also a whole year. The sector dries a little bit longer than Massone, so after the rain, usually a lot of tufas are wet. The routes are different. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. Most of the climbs are in between 7A to 8A range. I think the most interesting starts with from the 60 plus. I think all the easier routes are not so cool. And also really interesting that this crag is a homeland of one of the hardest routes in Italy right now, which is Wonderland, opened by Anna Monza. Why it's worth of visiting? Definitely the rock is less polished than in Massone. Also the formations are really interesting. You have a bigger overhangs, you have a smaller overhangs, there's plenty of tufas. So yeah, I think this is an interesting spot for climbing. Another sector is Belvedere, which was restored around 10, maybe 15 years ago. Right now it's really perfect spot for people who are less advanced. The climbing is up to 7B. Most of the routes that I personally tried, which is above 6Cs, were amazing. The climbing is really similar to gym climbing. There are a lot of slopers, small jugs, little tufas. There is a nice view on the lake. The approach is around 10-15 minutes. So if you have children, it's not the perfect place to get. The sun is basically all day, so it's better to choose that sector in the cloudy day or maybe in the winter when it's cold. Last sector is Calvario. It has around 25 routes. Most of them are around 6B. There are a few 7A, 7Bs, there is 1 or 2 8As. The rock is rather vertical with a very small tufas or only with creams. On the left side there is a grey rock, on the right side there is a little bit of orange and yellow rock. The sun is up to around 1 p.m. so you can climb there in the morning if you want to be in the sun, or you can wait until afternoon to climb in the shade.